And our panelists tonight for our club sports programs, I'd first like to introduce the Executive Director for Club Sports and Recreation here at Sacred Heart, Ray Mancio. Good evening, Ray.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Rob. Happy to be here with everyone tonight.
And then we also have two student athletes representing our club sports programs. I'd first like to introduce Cassidy Pratt. Good evening, Cassidy. Talk a little bit about yourself.
Good evening. I'm Cassidy Pratt. I'm a senior exercise science major here at SHU, and I play club softball.
All right. And also joining us is Vinny Basilino. Good evening, Vinny.
How's it going, everybody? My name is Vinny. I'm a junior. I'm an exercise science student. I play men's rugby here at Sacred Heart, and I'm from Long Island.
All right, very good. Before we get into questions for you, Ray, just a couple quick things, a little bit of background about our club sports and recreation program. So actually this year, Sacred Heart is 15 years in celebrating our phenomenal club sports program, which has grown to just a few teams to over 35 club sport programs and 20 intramural programs as well. So Ray, talk a little bit about what our programs are, what they include, and then also how are our programs different than other universities?
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate that. Yeah, we had this idea back 15 years ago where we said, if you love Sacred Heart University and you wanted to come here, but you still wanted to play a sport, and for whatever reason you weren't a Division One athlete or Division One wasn't for you, what options were there? So that's kind of when we ramped up our club sports program, and we decided to make it a little bit different from what a lot of other universities do. One of the things that we have is we do have, as you kind of saw in that video, an athletic training room that's dedicated solely to club sport athletes. There's 3 full-time athletic trainers that will help out at all of our games, practices, and again, we're the only school in the country that has 3 athletic trainers that are dedicated solely to our club sport athletes. We use most of the exact same facilities that our Division One teams play at. So, Vinny and Cassie could both tell you the same fields that our women's rugby team plays on and our Division One softball team plays on. That's the exact same fields that both our club softball and club men's rugby teams will also play on. We do also have some strength and conditioning programs that we do offer. So there's a lot of things that we do a little bit more unique and run more like a traditional athletic department. And we do consider ourselves in comparison to kind of what an NCAA Division 2 or 3 program would look like. We have a lot of athletes that were all state, all county, all region, who received a lot of accolades. And we also have a lot of programs that there is no true equivalent to a Division One, for example, figure skating, who's nationally ranked as well. So we do have a lot of different programs and a lot of different sports that we do spend a lot of time on, and we give as much support as we can to our student athletes.
All right, so we have a lot of questions tonight, so we're going to try to get through as many as we can in this half an hour for our club sports programs before we move on to Division One. So I'm actually going to stay with Ray for 2 questions. First, Ray, is our fees associated with our club sports programs?
That's a good question. For the most of our teams, there is a small fee, very nominal. It really just helps kind of offset the cost of some various things such as travel and whatnot. We do provide uniforms. We do provide equipment. We always tell everyone their personal type equipment. For example, just in like softball or baseball, your glove, you'd be expected to provide that. The dues that we do charge for some teams is very minimal, and that goes right back to the team for all those circumstances.
All right, and then this next question is actually a 2-part question. So what is the process for getting on the teams? Are there tryouts? And then can a student get on a team after the season has started, or can they even get on a team in another semester once they've started here at Sacred Heart?
Yeah, those are great questions. We do have tryouts for most of our teams. One of the things I would encourage everyone to do now is to go onto our website. It's Sacred Heart Club Sports or ShoeClubSports.com. You can find the listing of coaches. You could email myself or one of my staff members as well. Let us know that you're interested. There's also some forms that you could fill out for prospective students that go to the coaches as well. And that'll give you the opportunity to get in touch with coaches now. Or over the next couple of months. They want to hear from you. They want to be able to tell you a little bit about their programs, kind of what their expectations are, and that way you could kind of be in touch with a coach or even one of the student athletes, like Vinny or Cassidy as well. We'd love to get you in touch with them. That way you could have a connection before you even get here. Again, most of our leagues do have roster maximums, so we do try to get everyone on a team. We do our best. A lot of our sports, we do have 3 men's club ice hockey teams. We have 2 club softball teams. So we do our best if we have the amount of students that are interested to start a second team. So there will be tryouts for most of them. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean you're being cut. It might be you're placed on one specific team. So I think that was the other part of your question, right?
Yes. All right. So I'm going to give Ray a breather before we go back to him. And I'm going to go to Cassidy. So Cassidy, talk a little bit about your experience in your senior year of high school, and what made you choose Sacred Heart? And then how was the change for you from playing at a high school level softball program and coming into Sacred Heart and playing here?
Yeah, sure. So, my senior year was the 2020 COVID year. So, I actually didn't have a senior softball season, which was devastating to me at the time. And I had kind of had it in my mind that that was going to be it. That was like the last time I was going to play softball. And I actually came to SHU with that exact thought in mind, that I wasn't going to play. I didn't even bring my bat bag the first day I moved in. And after getting in contact with Ray, I decided that I needed something to do here at school and one way to kind of like finish out my softball career. So I called my parents up and I got my bat bag and decided to play softball. And the transition for me honestly wasn't, there's not that big of a difference. Club softball here is very competitive, and I know a lot of the club sports are really competitive. They kind of get like a club sports people don't think they're going to be that competitive, but we travel and we play a lot of big schools. We go down to Georgia if we qualify, and we play big schools like Virginia Tech and Clemson, like things that you would never imagine if you would actually be able to do for a club sport. So I really don't think that the transition was all that difficult for me. Academics wise, coming to SHU, it's definitely an adjustment, but like I think that playing club softball really helped me get that adjustment because I was able to make friends and kind of get used to being on campus easier that way than just trying to tackle it myself.
All right. Vinny, almost the same kind of question for you. Did you play rugby in high school? And what was that transition for you like when you came into Sacred Heart and decided to play here?
Yeah, so I played rugby in high school. I started my junior year, and then I was a 2020 COVID year as well. So my season got canceled when I was a senior. But coming into Sacred Heart, it was sort of a rougher adjustment playing rugby because of how much contact there is. So we weren't able to actually play for a little bit. And then my freshman year, we were able to get a couple games in, more practices in, and then last sophomore year, we were able to get a actual season in, and then same thing with this year. But the level of competition definitely increased from high school to college because just the amount of skill and physicality that college brings into the mix. Like there's no Division I NCAA men's rugby. There's only club. So a lot of these schools, these are the only men's rugby players that you're playing against. But it's all fun, and all the guys on their team are almost like brothers to me. Same thing with Cassidy with academics. It was definitely a transition coming from high school, but with time management and understanding your course load, it wasn't impossible. Also, with having guys on the team with the same major as me, I was able to ask them about what professors to take, and if I had any trouble with classes, they were able to help me out.
All right. So in seeing all the questions that we're getting in tonight, there are a lot of specific questions for specific sports. We're going to try to get through as many as we can. But as Ray said, visit our club sports website at shoeclubsports.com. And that'll give you access to coaching information as well as the director's information so you can contact them personally. But Ray, we're going to try to do some rapid fire on some specific programs and some questions that are coming in. So first, can you talk a little bit about club golf and what's available for both men's and women's?
Sure. We compete in the National Club Golf Association. There's basically 2 or 3 tournaments, large tournaments each semester. And this past fall, one of our men's players qualified for the national championship in Las Vegas. So he went out to Las Vegas in the beginning of December, was able to compete against some high level golfers. So there is the opportunity for both of them. We do try to get our team over to Great River, which is actually a golf course that's owned by Sacred Heart. But we also are adjacent to another golf course. So a lot of times our teams are using that because they could just kind of walk over as well. So there's opportunities for both men and women within our club golf program.
For club sailing, Ray, what is the practice schedule like, and where do our students sail out of?
We sail out of Captain's Cove, which is down in Bridgeport. It's the same facility that Fairfield University sails out of. So there's some camaraderie there with them. But Sacred Heart's better. But we also do sail in both the spring and fall semesters, and typically they'll practice about 3 days per week, typically in the afternoons. We do have a fleet of boats. We have a bunch of racing boats for collegiate racing, and we also have some large boats that we utilize.
For basketball, when do basketball tryouts start, and how long is the season?
Both men's and women's basketball will start typically about the end of September, beginning of October, and they're actually both actually qualifying for the regional playoffs this year. It's the first time both teams have qualified in the same year. The regional playoffs will be April 1st and 2nd this year, and then the national championship would be the week after Easter this year. So typically that season could really start in October and go through April.
For club CrossFit that we have here, Big Red CrossFit, is it taught by student or professional coaches?
It's a good question because it's actually technically both. Everyone has to be at least level 1 certified. So everyone has their professional certification. There are some students that are level 1 certified that do actually teach classes as well, which is actually in our CrossFit gym is in Bergoglio Hall. If you are on campus and you're touring and you ever want to see it.
All right. You mentioned earlier that we have 3 club hockey teams. Can you talk about what level of each of those they compete at, and also where do they play?
You set me up with a good one, Rob. So we do have 3 men's club ice hockey teams. We are the only school in the country that has 4 competitive club men's hockey teams, including our NCAA Division I team. 2 of our teams are in the ACHA at the Division II and III levels, and 1 team is also in the CHF, which is a league that started in 2019. Our ACHA Division II team qualified for regionals this year, finishing 9th overall in the rankings in the Northeast. Our Division III team finished 21-1, and won their conference championship at the Division III level. And our CHF team actually qualified for their conference tournament for the first time in their history. And we all play at the Marteri Family Arena, which is the brand new spectacular arena that's located on campus. We're lucky enough that we get to have all of our club hockey, men's and women's home games there, as well as our figure skating team calls it their home, along with our men's and women's Division I teams, which you'll hear about later. So we do have a very large presence between club and Division I athletics in the brand new Marteri Family Arena, which is, if you haven't seen it yet, it's worth the price of admission.
And we will be showcasing that beautiful arena at our admitted student days on March 25th and March 26th. We're going to stay on the ice actually for a minute here, Ray. Talk a little bit about our nationally ranked figure skating team and what is involved for students who are interested in that.
Yeah, they're very competitive. They they just came back from another competition this past weekend where they had their highest team score in school history. They're going to just miss out this year on national championships. They were in a 3-way tie for 3rd place, and they're actually going to be the first alternate out of those. But it's a competitive team, but you don't have to have any experience necessarily to play. To compete, our coach, Lisa Fedek, who, again, you can find her information online, is a phenomenal coach. She works with all levels of skaters. And, again, they'll compete in around – usually it's about 3 tournaments before they would go to nationals. They did qualify for nationals last year. Like I said, we're going to fall just short this year, but I can pretty much guarantee they'll be back next year.
All right. We're going to give Ray a breather for a moment before we go back to him. I do want to go to Cassidy because a question had come in about softball. Cassidy, can you talk a little bit about what the difference between the red and white teams are for softball?
So the difference between red and white, the white team actually was created, I believe, last year. Last year, and we both play the same amount of games. Usually the same teams. We're in the same conference, um, so that means we have to play the same teams. We even get to play each other, which is always a really fun, friendly competition that we play at Pioneer Park. Um, Really, the only difference is just the colors that the team's named after. I mean, they play on the at Pioneer Park. We play at Pioneer Park. The practice schedule's a little different. Sometimes they'll practice earlier than us or later than us. Sometimes the red team, I play for the red team. Sometimes we do travel further than the white team. So if that would be something that someone was interested in and not in traveling further or not traveling further because of school or whatever, that's always like an option. You can always play on the white team in order to fix be able to do that for schoolwork and stuff, or if you are more interested in traveling further and playing with a different team, there really isn't a difference. So yeah.
All right.
Rob, can I add something?
Yes, you certainly can,
Sorry.
Ray.
We were the first school to have two club softball teams, and one of the unique things is because of that, we worked with the league, which is the National Club Softball Association. There's a Division One, and they're adding a Division Two next year, so we will have a team in Division One and Division Two, and really the only difference is that we can win now 2 national championships instead of 1.
And besides being the executive director, Ray is also the head softball coach as well. So he knows what he's talking about. Ray, I am going to go back to you for 2 really, I guess, popular questions tonight. One is, what is involved for intramural athletics here at Sacred Heart, and when do most of those games take place?
The easiest way that I always kind of describe, the differences between club sports and intramurals, just so everyone's aware, is that club sports are teams that are going to Sacred Heart teams that are going to practice, play, and compete against other colleges, universities across the Northeast. That's what we used to say across the Northeast, but kind of as Cassidy and Vinny both had mentioned, it's kind of all over the country at this point. And with one of the differences with intramurals is that Sacred Heart students playing and competing against just Sacred Heart students on our campus. So each sport will have its season, and we'll have on top of that, we'll have a bunch of one-day tournaments for particular activities like badminton or dodgeball, any of those types of things. So there's a bunch of different things we'll do there, but those seasons will all have specific time frames, and one of the ones we'll start with is flag football, which will start really in kind of the first 2 weeks of school, and then it'll transition where we'll play indoor soccer, basketball, volleyball, kind of throughout the rest of the fall semester. But and again, you don't have to have any experience at all to play those sports. You could start a team with your friends if you don't want to. Your friends don't want to play and you want to just join a team, you could do that as well.
All right, just a little bit of information, if you can, about the riveting and up-and-coming club chess program, as well as our esports program.
Yeah. Again, kind of as I'd mentioned before, and kind of Vinny had mentioned it too, there are some sports that don't have necessarily an NCAA equivalent. Chess is one of them. We do have a competitive chess team. They just traveled this past January, to Seattle for a Pan Am American tournament. There's also we've hosted one tournament in the fall, one tournament in the spring on campus. So it is competitive, but if you've never played chess before, there's also that option to join to learn how to play chess. So, but if you are interested in playing chess and you're a ranked player, we'd love to have you to kind of come on board, and we're kind of looking to grow that program. Our esports program is rapidly growing. We have about 60 competitive players and about 100 overall players. And if you're interested in that, we definitely encourage you to join our Discord now. You can meet some of the team, meet some of the players that play for recreationally. We do play in a bunch of different leagues. One of the primary leagues we do play in is the ECAC. The ECAC is actually an athletic conference, but they've also have a spinoff for an esports conference that we're a part of. So in April 1st and 2nd, we'll also be hosting the Connecticut Cup in conjunction with our esports minor. And that's a kind of a dual on-campus and virtual event where we'll give out a kind of a championship for various games. We do have a lot of different games like Rocket League, Smash, Valorant, all different games that we play, and they're always willing to add more as well.
All right, we're going to give Ray a break one more time. We're going to go to Vinny. Vinny, talk a little about, very quickly, because we have some more questions to get through, your practice schedule, and then what is the level of competition that you're competing with in your in rugby?
Yeah, so right now we practice 3 times a week, and then when we start playing games and we're playing some sevens tournaments in the spring now, we're gonna probably have a walkthrough on Fridays. But right now we just do team meetings on Fridays, um, which all of these are in conjunction to your regular schedule. If you have a class or if you need to do an assignment or study for a big exam, all you have to do is communicate with the coaches, and you don't have to practice that night. And the level of competition that we play right now, we're playing against Southern Connecticut University, Springfield in Mass, Westfield in Massachusetts, Central Connecticut, Hartford, and then we also play teams. We have played teams in the fall: University of New Hampshire, Bentley, University of Vermont, um, Coast Guard Academy, and all those teams. So the level of competition is very high. Like I said, it's the only club sport where there's not a Division One team. So all these players that you're playing against are the only rugby players at those schools. So.
All right. Thank you, Vinny. Ray, if a team, if a student comes here, either for club sports or varsity, excuse me, club sports or intramurals, and they want to do a sport that isn't here, is there a chance for that sport to be started?
Yeah, there's always a chance, but like I'd mentioned previously, one of the things we do is that we do operate more like a traditional athletic department. So there's a lot of preparation that's put in place, really even now, starting for next August, September, and October. So a lot of times when someone has an interest in starting up a sport, it's something that we'll definitely look into and that we'll research. It might not start up immediately in the fall, because there's a lot of preparation on our end to make sure that we're not just saying, here, go do it. You're great. Um, have fun with it. We want to make sure that we're doing everything correctly. As I mentioned before, we do have athletic trainers, so we do have a secondary insurance policy. They need to clear you medically. That there's medical forms that you do. So there's a lot of other checks and balances kind of on our end. So it's not. It's definitely something that we'd help you do and something we'd look into, but it's not necessarily would be done right away.
All right. Speaking of actually something you just mentioned, does a student need to complete a physical or have a physical completed in order to play for both club sports and intramurals?
For club sports, yes. For intramurals, no. We do have a website that, kind of after orientation, we'll be talking to everybody about at orientation, then opening up, where you go in and you fill out some of your medical history that's reviewed by our athletic trainers. We do need a sports physical. Again, it's just kind of like same thing you'd have in high school. Again, this is because we do have 3 full-time athletic trainers that are there to take care of you, so they just need to know your background, your medical history in order to clear you to play.
And can you talk a little bit about club football?
Absolutely. Our club football team won the national championship in 2017. We play in the NCFA, which is National Club Football Association. We've won 6 conference championships. We've only lost 1 conference championship in our existence. We do play kind of all across the Northeast primarily, whether it's going down to Virginia to play George Mason or out to play Pittsburgh. So we'll play about six to 7 league games, and usually we try to play 2 out of conference games. The national championship is usually held in the first week of December, and the national semifinals are the week before Thanksgiving. So we've been in the national semifinals 4 times, and the national championship once.
Okay. And also, Ray, we some questions about cheerleading. So we do have both Division One level and club cheerleading. So Ray, on your end, can you talk a little bit about what club cheerleading entails?
Yeah, so club cheer is more along the lines of a wide ranging skill set. So if you're new to the sport, you've never done it before, we definitely encourage you to try out, come out to the team. that's one team that we don't necessarily do cuts with, so that the coaches will work with you to kind of teach you how to do all those different things. But if you have a lot of experience and you still, Division One isn't the answer for you, no matter for whatever reason, you could do club cheer. We're going to continue to expand our offerings for club. The team cheers at the football games, and we're going to be adding ice hockey and basketball in the future as well.
All right. I'm going to give Ray the last word in a little bit, but I do want to go one last time to our students, Cassidy and Vinny. Talk about very quickly, what is the one thing that you love about Shoe Club Sports?
Personally, for me, I just love that it's a way for me to get away from schoolwork. It's something that I can look forward to during the season and even off the season, because I make so many friends, and it's just a really great way to get yourself out there and to make friends and to meet new people and to get comfortable in a school like Shoe, especially if you're far away. Like, I'm from Massachusetts, so it's a 2-hour drive for me, so it's a whole new experience, and it just made everything about the college transition so much easier and so much better.
And Vinny?
Yeah. So for me, almost the same thing with creating all these friendships and brothers on this team. Not only the students and friends that I have in my grade, but ranging from freshmen to seniors. When I was a freshman, I had friends that were seniors, and now I have friends that are freshmen. There's really no animosity between any of us, and we basically just do everything together. And it's also really cool having the athletic training room just for club sports as well. So we see each other in there, either taking ice baths or just getting treatment for practices during the week, and also meeting other club sport athletes in there as well.
All right. I just saw a question that came in asking about the difficulty of being an athlete at the club sport level with a program as a major such as nursing. And you certainly, and Ray can attest to this, you could certainly do any major, have a major and do any sport you'd like. All it comes down to is really time management. If you can manage your time and you can fit everything in, then you're more than welcome to do any club sport you'd like. Ray, if a student plays on a club sport, is there ever a chance that that student may get called up to its equivalent at the D1 level?
I mean, there's always a chance. So, and again, there is a difference in level of competition. So there is, kind of that divide. Each sport's a little bit different. And again, when you guys listen to it, you can hear kind of about the commitment and time commitment that our Division One athletes do have to make. And the coaches are constantly recruiting. So I would never say never, because we've had some athletes move from club to varsity, Division One for some sports, but it's not something that happens very often. But it has happened before.
All right. And Ray, I'm going to give you the last word in this segment here on Club Sports. Anything left that you would like to say to all of our admitted students watching tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I appreciate everyone coming out and listening to us talk for a little bit. Both Vinny and Cassidy, who were kind of speaking to you tonight, both might not say it, but they're both sensational athletes. They're great people too. But we're always looking to add and kind of grow all of our programs. We've got a lot of teams going to national championships here, whether it's gymnastics is going to Memphis, and field hockey is going to Myrtle Beach, and our club softball team's ranked second in the country. There's a lot of accomplishments that we've made, and we want to, and that's all in part because of the student athletes that we have that are playing for us now, and we want to continue to grow that. And kind of Rob alluded to before, this is a special place. It's a place where you can kind of grow as a person, and our club sport teams allow you to grow and have a family outside of your resident hall and your classrooms. It's another group of people that you really connect with. Most of our teams are very close, so if this is, you're looking for something that you want to find your niche and find a place that you're going to be happy, this is always a good place to go there. Again, myself and Rob are both graduates from Sacred Heart 2 times over, so it's been a home away from home for a lot of us, and it's just we hope that you're going to make this your home in the fall of 23.
All right. I want to thank Ray Mencio, our Executive Director of Club Sports and Recreation, Cassidy Pratt, and Vinny Basilino, representing all of our club sport athletes, for being here tonight to talk about club sports. We are now going to start transitioning to our next segment, which is going to be on our NCAA Division I teams here at Sacred Heart. And here is a video highlighting our 33 Division I teams. So here at Sacred Heart University, we actually are blessed to have one of the largest Division I programs by the number of teams that we offer. And we have had a legacy of tremendous pioneer athletes come through our Division I programs over the last 60 years. And we're very excited tonight to talk to you a little bit about these programs. But we're also triply excited tonight because in just about an hour and a half, we were watching this, it's now 7:30 on the East Coast, our women's Division I team will be competing in a play-in game for the women's national tournament. They are playing out in Stanford, California, and they are playing Southern University tonight. That game will be at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on ESPNU. So I encourage everyone here tonight, once you finish watching us, when we wrap up at 8 p.m., take a little break, have a snack, but then also watch TV tonight and support our Shoe Women's Pioneer basketball team. So just like we did for club sports, we have some representatives from our Division I programs here to talk to you a little bit about those. First, I'd like to introduce Charlie Tortorisi, who is our compliance director for our Division I teams. Good evening, Charlie.
Hi, Rob. Thanks for having me.
All right. And representing our athletes here at Sacred Heart, first is DeAndre Bird, representing football. Good evening, DeAndre.
Good evening, Rob. How you doing?
Good. Talk a little bit about yourself.
My name is DeAndre Bird. I play football here at Sacred Heart. I'm a grad student from Atlanta, Georgia, in undergrad in finance.
All right. And representing our spirit teams here at Sacred Heart, Lizzie do it one more time. I'm sorry. Sahach. I'm sorry about that, Lizzie.
It's Polish.
That's right. We're so glad to have you here tonight, Lizzie. Talk a little bit about yourself as well.
Hi, I'm Lizzie. I am a master's student. 5th year, I did cheerleading. I'm from Long Island, and I majored in elementary education.
All right. And so we are going to take your questions again. So feel free to, if you have any Division I level questions, feel free to ask those. I'm going to go over to Charlie really quick. Charlie, talk a little bit about what your position is here at Sacred Heart.
Yeah, Rob. So me, in my position as the Associate AD for Compliance, I oversee all the compliance efforts for the university from an NCAA side of things. I work with our student athletes, our coaches, as well as admissions, financial aid. Pretty much every office on campus I have a role with in some way, shape, or form, and just oversee all those efforts, make sure everyone's following the rules, helping student athletes, kind of a customer service approach for anyone that needs anything from an NCAA side of things.
All right. And, we, like I said, we have 33 Division I teams. Primarily, we are, as you can see from the banner behind our speakers tonight, we are associated with the Northeast Conference. However, we do have some auxiliary conferences as well. Charlie, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so as Rob said, the NEC is our main conference. That's where most of our championship sports are in, but our hockey teams are in their own conferences as well. Men's hockey plays in Atlantic hockey, which is pretty much focused mostly in the Northeast, as well as women's hockey is in the New England Women's Hockey Alliance. And then we have other sports such as wrestling, fencing that are in their own separate conferences that are more sports-specific conferences rather than school-wide conferences.
All right. Now let's get right to our students. So we're going to go with Lizzie. A lot of questions tonight about cheerleading, and I think you're okay to talk about this one. So talk a little bit about what the cheerleading program is like at the D1 level here, and then when would students be trying out for these?
Okay, so we have 2 different teams here at the Division I level. We have our traditional team and then our game day team. We are considered as one team, but we both compete at UCI Nationals. Just one is in game day and one is in traditional. We have clinics throughout the whole year. If you would like to try out, I would recommend that you go to our spring clinics, which are happening now. There is a link in our Instagram if you'd like to sign up, and tryouts are at the end of April. You should hear back if you made the team before you have to decide what school you want to commit to.
All right, that was a very great answer. Thank you so much. And DeAndre, same for you. I mean, you are, had a pleasure to be on a run of D1 football here. That when we were on top of the NEC, and talk a little bit about your experience on D1 football, and then what was it like transitioning into Sacred Heart to play here?
Well, first off, I'm from obviously went to school in Atlanta, Georgia, but I did a prep year at Deerfield Academy in Massachusetts before I came here. One of the best experiences I've ever had. From there, it was between UNH, Sacred Heart, and Georgetown. I ended up tearing my ACL. So after Georgetown found out about it, I originally was going to go to Georgetown, but they took my scholarship after they found out I tore my ACL. So from there, it was between UNH and here, and I took a visit here, and I just fell in love with the place. The people brought me here, and I don't second guess myself whatsoever. It's been a phenomenal time here, and I wouldn't take it back for the world. I came in 2018. I was blessed enough through this is my 5th year now to have 3 championships from the football team. It's been phenomenal. It's been a lot of ups, a lot of downs, but I'm here for it all, and I just want to leave the place better than I found it.
All right, Charlie, we're going to go back to you for a quick second. How often does a student who's coming in that hasn't been recruited eligible for a walk-on for any of our D1 teams?
That happens quite often. Some of our bigger rosters and our bigger name sports don't necessarily have tryouts or have the ability for walk-on things during their championship segment. A lot of teams will tend to host tryouts normally in their non-championship segment. So like your fall sports, football, soccer's, things along those lines in the fall don't really entertain those walk-ons right away out the gate. They'll take your names, and then if they have roster spots available to them, they'll have and host tryouts in the spring. Now, if it's a spring sport like a baseball or softball, sometimes they'll have the ability to have those things in the fall, depending on where the roster size is, injuries, things along those lines. There is definitely the opportunity for walk-ons to happen, but most of the time, a walk-on position will happen before you even come to school. If you reach out to the coaching staff and ask and inquire about whether they're going to host tryouts or whether they're looking for walk-ons at that time, then that's normally your best case to know what's going to happen.
All right. If a student is interested in, and this question is again for Charlie, if a student is interested in being a Division I athlete here and hasn't yet to talk to a coach, what is the process now in their senior year as an admitted student to get that process started?
The best way to get that process started is to reach out to the coach. Send them an email. All of our coaches' email addresses are on our website at sacredheartpioneers.com. If you go into the staff directory, you can find whatever sport and whatever coach you're looking for. Some of our programs will have a recruiting coordinator next to their name, and that's a person that you can reach out to. But email them, tell them that you're an admitted student and that you're interested in the program. Another great way is also on our website under the recruiting tab for each sport. If you go to each sport's webpage and look at the recruiting tab, there's a questionnaire link. Fill out that questionnaire. There's a lot of sports-specific information on there, and then you can send that in. A coach will get an email alerting them that you filled out a questionnaire, and then you can follow that questionnaire up with an email saying that, hey, you're interested, you just looked into it, and go from there.
And then on the same line as that, what does a student do if they come to Sacred Heart, were not recruited, did not have a conversation with the coach, but once they are here, decide that they may want to go out for a Division I team?
It'll be the same type of process of reaching out to the coach. A lot of the decision, almost every decision when it comes to a roster is up to the head coach and their coaching staff to see who's going to be on the roster, who's not, who's qualified for it. As we've alluded to most of the time here, there's a difference between club sports and Division I sports. So unfortunately, you may think that you have the level, but the coaches are the expertise in that area. So they'll want to make sure that you meet the test, that you're going to fit in, and they want to make sure that you're going to be a integral part of the team. There's no reason to never ask. It doesn't hurt to ask by any means of the imagination, but just remember that it is a high level, a very high time commitment, and everything else that goes with what you would think being a Division 1 athlete is.
Good question that just came in. I'll answer, and that is, will students get to meet with coaches at our upcoming admitted student days? We will have representatives from both our Division 1 and club sport programs at our admitted student days on March 19th, March 25th, and March 26th for you. I'm going to go over to DeAndre. Talk a little bit about what the practice schedule is like as a D1 athlete, and then what is associated with practicing, such as lifting and strength and conditioning.
Okay, so right now we're in the spring season, so we're only at the pit center from 8 to 10 for the rest of the day. We might have meetings by 3 o'clock, depending on whatever your coach schedule and everybody in your position, whatever their class schedule is. So that's just touching base and seeing what time is best for you guys. But like during the season, I think now we practice 9 to 11, so we'll lift before that by 8 in the morning, 7 to 8 o'clock in the morning. Then we have practice, obviously, and there's class schedule, and then from there, you really have all the time you need to do your studies, get food, hang out with the guys. So obviously, it's very time consuming, but you just have to manage your time as best as you can.
All right. Lizzie, this is actually a really good question, well worded. What perks come associated with being a D1 cheerleader?
I mean, that is a good question. I don't know what isn't a perk, honestly. You get all the gear, like obviously shirts. And I think that the biggest perk of being a Division 1 cheerleader is getting the opportunity to go to nationals down in Florida, because that is an experience like no other. Another perk is you get to move onto campus in August before the rest of the students do. So majority of the sports, or maybe some that are compete in the fall season, will move in August. So you get to settle in and everything before any other student. We have athletic trainers. We have our strength and conditioning staff. We also lift twice a week. You get to be at a lot of sporting events, and it's just a great time.
And that's going to be my next question for you. So, as part of our Spirit program, which includes Division 1 cheer as well as dance team, can you talk a little bit about what games you cheer at and what that experience is like for you?
So we cheer mainly at football, men's and women's basketball, and we also do cheer at women's and men's wrestling occasionally, but that is not all. We will be at different events on campus or welcoming sports teams back at the Pitt Center. We're always doing something.
And some of your peers in the program are actually lucky enough to have traveled, like we said, with our Division 1 women's team out to California, with less than 24 hours notice, mind you, to go and cheer with our band program and our staff from the university out there. So, that's exciting for a lot of our students to take part in those special experiences. Charlie, I'm going to go back to you. What is the relationship like between our advising services here, our academic services, and our student athletes?
Yeah, so we have 3 full-time staff members within athletics that are considered our student athlete academic support services. 3 full-time staff members that work with all 1,200 of our student athletes. They're available to help them. We look at them as secondary advisors. You will have your primary on-campus advisor that will work with you on your classes and your schedules, but we're that second set of eyes to help you with those things. We have tutoring that's available for all of our student athletes, as well as study hall hours that are mandated for some, others it's there, but we have a wonderful academic center that has a ton of tables, a lot of different resources in there that that students can hang out in there, do their work, get it done. It's a nice quiet place that's not bothered by a lot of people. It's a place for students to do their work for them, really. And we also have mental health counselor as part of our student athlete academic support services. It's part of the support services. We have a mental health counselor that's embedded within athletics. We take mental health really importantly. And then, as well as the student athlete development piece, our academic support services works very closely with that, with our student athlete advisory committee. So we do a lot of different events to help develop the whole student as well. Resume workshops. We work closely with career services here on campus. So there's a lot of other things that happen that just aren't student based or student athlete based to help develop the whole entire student.
All right, awesome. Thank you. We had a couple questions that came in tonight about athlete housing and what will go along with getting placed into athlete housing. We don't actually offer athletic-based housing. All athletes will go through the same housing process as every other student. So you're not assigned rooms by coaches. You would be like everyone else. And yes, as some of our speakers tonight talked about, you may be moving in early, depending on when your season starts, when your practicing starts for your season, and that would be communicated to you via the coach as you deposit and as we go through the summer after orientation. I do want to go back to DeAndre real quick. Talk a little bit about what it means to be an athlete here at Sacred Heart and performing or competing in front of all of us who love to support athletics, families, alumni. What that feeling is like, especially this past year during the family weekend game when we had more than 10,000 spectators, the largest crowd we've ever had at a Division I football game. Talk a little bit about that experience.
Listen, I don't. Saturday night at Campus Field, it gets real. Okay, ever since I've been here, we break the attendance record every time we have a home game. We had a 12 game winning streak at home. It wouldn't be possible without the fans, the family coming out to support us. We have tailgates; they go hard. It's a phenomenal time. They add new bleachers, like the energy. We have a beer garden. It's called the Outpost. The student athletes support us, and we try to do the same whenever they have games. So it's an atmosphere that's like no other. You have to come experience it.
And same for you, Lizzie. That same question. What is it? How do you feel off the energy that you're actually creating as a cheerleader? What is that like for you?
It's crazy because when you're on the sidelines, you just look up at everybody and they almost look like ants because there's so many people. And I love being like that close to the football team on the sidelines because you feel their energy and then you want to give that off to the crowd, and it is awesome. It's amazing. Alumni weekend was amazing. I'll be coming back in a few months.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm gonna stick with you, Lizzie. I know that you're not on the D1 dance team, but you know a lot of people on in that program. When does our dance team perform at games?
So usually the both of us will perform during halftime or timeouts. So I know that they go to nationals in April, so they'll perform a little bit more during that season during basketball games. They also perform at football games during halftime, and they're also on the sidelines with us at both football and basketball games.
All right. And DeAndre, a question came in specifically for you. And that question is, do you have any hopes to be playing football once you are done with Sacred Heart?
It's always a dream for sure. A couple of teams that came in and see me this previous year, but right now I'm just focused on getting healthy. I got injured last year, so my health is my most important thing right now. We'll see where God takes me.
All right, great answer. Charlie, what is it like between our students who are competing at a Division I level and our students that are competing at the club level? What is the main differentiation between both of those?
So, like Ray was saying, we have great athletes at the club sport level, and we have had opportunities for those club sports student athletes to elevate to the Division I level. But a big differentiation between the two is the time commitment that goes into it. Our student athletes when they're in season, they can be practicing up to 20 hours a week, and there's a real commitment to being a part of the sport, really putting your mind forward, making the commitment, putting all in. You can't just kind of go in and out as you please, as you might with club sports. It's really that like commitment of 24 hours a day. It's not, you have time to do a lot of different other things, but there is that piece that you have to have the drive. You have to want to be the best. Our coaches push you, our strength and conditioning staff pushes you to be the best that you can be, and we want to make sure that you succeed so that the whole team and everyone else succeeds. But other than that, I mean, there is that level of talent that you're going to see. You get recruited as a Division I student athlete, but I've seen plenty of student athletes that have been walk-on students and have been conference champions for us, from our track and field program and things like that. But it's the drive, it's the commitment to the sport, and knowing that, hey, I can do this, putting your head forward and putting your all into it.
We talked earlier when we started this segment about us being a member of the Northeast Conference. Can you talk a little about some of the schools that we compete against?
Yep. So the Northeast Conference, situated up here in the Northeast, some of our peers, Fairleigh Dickinson University, we've been going head to head with them in a lot of championships this year. Our women's basketball team beat them to go to the NCAA tournament, but their men's team is in the NCAA tournament, and I believe they're playing tonight as well as Central Connecticut up here in Connecticut. We have Merrimack and Stonehill up in the Massachusetts area, and then who else is down south? St. Francis, PA out in Pennsylvania, and St. Francis, Brooklyn. LIU is another big one. They have a lot of programs as well. So those are most of the schools within our conference.
All right. I'm going to go back to the students for one last question here. You're both have been here for a while. You've both been able to perfect your craft and what you do both on and off the field. What was the one thing that Sacred Heart taught you that you're going to leave with as a student athlete? I'll start with that, DeAndre.
For me, I would probably say everybody you meet, treat with respect. You never know who they are, how they can help you down the line. So just try to build a relationship with everybody you meet. Be a people person, because I tell you what, the shoe community here is real. They love each other. You won't walk past anybody without them saying, "Hey," like it's a real family culture here. So, I love it. I love it, definitely.
All right. Same for you, Lizzie.
So it might sound cliche, but it would honestly be to never give up. Because when I was in high school, when I was a senior in high school in 2018, I came from a really intense, really competitive, at the top cheerleading program. And I got second my senior year at nationals, and I thought I had given up on that dream. I was never going to win nationals ever. Sacred Heart definitely proved me wrong, because I'm on the traditional team, and in 2020 we won the school's first national cheerleading championship, and there has just been every year after one of our teams takes it home. So never give up.
Yeah, our cheerleading team has been the pride of Sacred Heart over the last few years, and it's really tremendous to watch them with all the success that they've had. Just two really quick questions to wrap up with you, Charlie. What are the probability odds for a student getting a scholarship for a Division I team here at Sacred Heart?
So it all depends on the team. Every team has different scholarship budgets for what they have and what they're allotting. It's really up to the coach. A lot of our student athletes are on scholarship in some way, shape, or form. So it really comes down to where you are, what this coach is looking for, and kind of how things are going to go there. Out of our 1,200 student athletes, I would say a little bit more than half of them are on some type of athletic scholarship.
All right. And then the last one for you, sort of on the same line as the students, as a compliance officer here, as a associate AD, what makes you so proud of working with our student athletes?
Our student athletes are great. They have so much passion for their sport. They're great individuals. I've worked at a few other universities, and I worked here previously, and then I came back to Sacred Heart because I loved it so much. As DeAndre was saying, there's that real family feel to it. Everyone feels really connected. Everyone loves each other, works for each other, shows up at different events. You just have that real family feel with everything that you do here at Sacred Heart. So I can't speak to enough of how great our student athletes are. I've been to a bunch of different events that I had no knowledge about. I traveled with fencing before, having never seen a fencing meet before, and the kids were so into it. They were so happy, so excited, and they were willing to teach, and they were willing to teach me everything about it. So I came out of there knowing all the different weapons that fencing has. And they just want people to take an interest and show up and come to their different events. So when we have crowds coming out for family weekend and alumni weekend, like DeAndre was saying, it's electric. The atmosphere is absolutely electric. When we have our shoe hoops madness for the beginning of practice, it's just practice for basketball. We fill the stadium, we fill the arena, we have a bunch of different events that night. Everyone comes out and it's a great time. So just showing the support, the student athletes will show their support to each other, show up at other different events as well. It's that great family feel.
I couldn't say any better myself. So I do want to thank for this segment, Charlie Todorisi from our administration side of Division One, and then DeAndre and Lizzie representing all of our student athletes at the Division One level here. Thank you all. So we are going to wrap up tonight. I do want to just let you know, if you missed any of tonight's chat, it will be archived on our chat website, chat.sacredheart.edu, beginning tomorrow morning, so you can go back and watch it. You all have a passion for athletics. That's why you're joining us this evening. And I urge you to not give up on that passion. Follow every route that you can do to get yourself on the field here, whether at the Division One or the club sports team. And whether or not you are thinking about the athletic program of your choice, or you're a little nervous about it, we are all fans. We are all pioneers, and we are all joined together by this common bond of supporting each other. And that's something that makes us so tremendous. We hope that we're going to see many of you at our upcoming Admitted Student Days on campus, both in March and April. Come for a visit. If you want any information about our Division One teams, you can visit the Division One website at www.sacredheartpioneers.com. If you'd like more information on our club sport programs, you can visit that website at www.shoeclubsports.com. And once again, don't forget, tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, please check in to ESPNU and view in to support our Division One women's basketball team as they play in the play-in round against Southern University. We're so proud of all of our athletes here at Sacred Heart, and it gives me such pleasure to say this tonight. Go Pioneers. On behalf of everybody here at Sacred Heart, have a good night, everybody. Bye-bye.